Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
We as women start off life happy, innocent, and loved. But after a brush with deceit and hurt at the hands of a man, we lose ourselves. But somehow, some women find something that gives them purpose and ultimate power over the evil that tries to consume their self-worth. And they come back to themselves to live in continual thankfulness. This is our episode today. This is another F50 woman. Hey, this is Julia Jack with F50 Woman. I am here with Donna Keller-Savage, and we have known each other for ages and ages, since forever and a day. We went to high school together. After that, we split. We all went on to our sort of adult lives, and then we came back around and reconnected when our kids were playing football. So that was really incredible. It's definitely a blessing because, you know what, Donna has life lessons. I learned a lot about her and her life when we reconnected, and I think she's just amazing. And I'm looking forward to you all hearing from her today. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Julia. I am so excited to be here and chatting with you.
Awesome. Let's just jump right in and let's talk about you as a young woman. What were you like? What did you want to be? Who were you when you were younger?
Well, I grew up in a town that was split. It was part farming, and as on that side of the fence, the farm girl, it was a little bit of middle upper class. I am the fifth generation to grow up on my property, so there has always been extended family living with us. My grandmother, my grandfather, my great uncle. I have a basement that during rainy season, there's a reason why the washer, dryer, and freezer are on pallets. And there are boots by the basement door because it would flood every single day that it would rain. And I just grew up like this. I remember going to a friend's house on the other side of town, and her basement had a fireplace and a leather sectional and a pool table and a bar. My dad came home every day from work in Dickies and work boots with a toolbox, and her father pulled up in a two-door Porsche in a suit. I remember being a teenager sitting on my mother's bed, sobbing, "We have to move. No one else's grandmother lives with them." Well, my gram is a huge part of who I am. This woman ran this homestead like no one's business. On Saturdays, as a little girl on a stool, I would wear an apron right alongside her, and we'd make 8 pies every Saturday. My dad would come in the door dusty and tired in his work clothes, and I'd hand him these little tiny mini apple, strawberry, raspberry, blueberry pies that I made alongside her, and he never brushed me off. He never said, "In a minute, let me get in the door." And he stopped, and he would take this pie in the doorway. And I saw the joy that this brought him. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career as a young woman, but that has stayed with me my entire life. Loving taking all these ingredients and turning them into something wonderful, and the joy that it brings somebody. I went to a culinary school, did not go for culinary. I went for business because at 18, no one in my life said to me, "Donna, you're cooking and baking all the time." I went for business. I thought I was going to open an accessory store, earrings and necklaces and scarves and hats. That didn't work out. But my entire life, I have been cooking and serving and nurturing people through food. So my career choices were a little gray, but who I am, who I was at 18, 20, 25 was because of living with my grandmother here at the same house.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So let's skip over the middle portion of your life and talk about who you are now. Tell us about who Donna is now.
I am corny. I am a romantic. I always believe things are going to work out. I am the ever optimist. I make myself cry every morning counting my blessings.
Wow.
Because I, during a lot of life lessons, replace the word want with need. You don't need a couch. You don't. I
Right.
was a single mom with beanbag chairs. You
Mm.
don't need a bed. I slept on a sheet on the floor as a
Right.
single mom. I realized that the things that I count my blessings for are not things you buy. I wake up with so much energy and so much joy and so much happiness. Who I really am is someone that doesn't take a day for granted. I believe wholeheartedly. I try to make an effort every day to tell people I love you, I'm
Mm.
sorry, and thank you.
Wow.
I don't take those things for granted.
Yeah.
Right now, I am in the wine and food business. I
Mhm.
teach people how to pair wine and food together. Hence, I'm still channeling my gram and bringing people together and joy. Where I am today, I could have never written this chapter in 100 years.
Yeah.
I believe every stone I've ever stepped on is part of a path.
Yeah.
And when you're on that stone in the present, whether it's neutral or joy or sadness, you don't realize that this is part of a bigger picture. I'm very aware of every stone I have stepped on up to this moment.
Yeah.
I love my life.
Yeah. How do you think you've got to the point where you can be aware of that? Some women are not aware of those stones. Is it just because of that switch you made between replacing need with want? Or how does that happen?
Reflection.
Okay.
Sometimes things are so muddy.
Mm.
Sometimes things are perception and not reality. And when you're standing on that stone, it's really hard to have hope. It's really hard to imagine things changing for the worse. But I realize that every single stone, so this is all in reflection, in
Yeah.
allowing myself to look back,
I
even
love
at
that.
the terrible times that I didn't think I'd get out of.
Yeah. So from that young Donna to you now, was there an aha moment? Talk about that a little bit.
I had a major aha moment. I
Mm.
was living in Florida and married. I had 3 little boys. I was in a horrible marriage. Now,
Mm.
my parents were high school sweethearts, had an amazing relationship, never heard them bicker. They were best of friends and worked really hard side by side with their family and their livelihood. I found myself in uncharted waters as ever the optimist and a really happy person. I found myself completely engulfed in darkness in this horrible marriage. So much was going on, and I was trapped. The person you're talking to today was who I was
Mm.
before I met him, but not while I was sharing an address with him. Completely changed who I was. I couldn't look people in the eye. I couldn't answer or return phone calls because somebody was going to say, "How are you?" And I was keeping this huge secret. We had the prettiest house in the neighborhood with the most manicured green plush lawn. There were new cars in the driveway and a boat and happy kids on bikes. And behind the scenes, it was like a Hollywood movie set. Here's the beautiful home, but there's a 2x4 behind it holding it up. There's really nothing behind the exterior
Wow.
you're seeing driving by. So what happened was I saw a movie. It is called The Joy Luck Club. It is about
Okay.
4 Chinese women brought up in China. They come to America and they each have a daughter. And throughout the movie, they reflect back to their life in China, wanting to give these lessons to their American daughters that are all living very different lives. And in one of the scenes, The mother is grocery shopping with the daughter, whose very wealthy husband wanted a divorce. She loved her husband, she loved her home, and they had a small daughter. And the mother realized while grocery shopping, her daughter was buying his favorite cake ingredients. She was going to make the man who's walking away from her, forcing her to sell her home she loved with him, she was going to make him his favorite cake. And the mother told a story about back in China, back in the day, and said, "Do you have self-worth?" That was my light bulb moment of my nightmare, that I was trapped. I couldn't get out. And I looked at my three sons. They were 8, 5, and 1. And I said, they are watching their mother have no self-worth because they're watching this happen day in and day out. It was psychological abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. And I had been brought down to nothing. No voice, no shoulders back, no chin up, nothing. And that was my moment. The next day, I brought the little one to a neighbor. The boys went to school, and I showed up at the courthouse at 9 a.m.
Wow.
I filled out my paperwork, why my husband should be kept away from me. The paperwork didn't come back to me till 4 o'clock. I sat in that corridor the entire day. It was stamped denied. It was my second attempt. In Florida, when you apply for a restraining order and they deny it, a uniformed police officer in a police car rings your doorbell and hands the packet in your handwriting, stamped denied, to your husband.
No.
He knows where you've been all day. So on my way back, I had 5 minutes. He was coming home from work in one direction, and I was 90 miles an hour coming in the other direction. I grabbed the boys at my neighbor's. I ran in the house, and I needed to grab things to buy myself some time. I couldn't grab anything to tip him off. I was never allowed to hold money. I had to hand him a grocery list. He only put a quarter tank of gas in my car at a time. If I asked him for money to go to the store, he'd tell me he already gave it to me. That whole cycle.
Wow.
I did not grab toothbrushes, pillows, stuffed animals, toys, nothing. Running around in a fury, I grabbed 3 hampers full of their dirty clothes. I threw them in a garbage bag, and I peeled out of that neighborhood. Well, that was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and by 7 o'clock, he had turned my cell phone off. I knew he had been delivered the packet of 3 pages in my handwriting.
Wow.
And that was it. My friends hid my vehicle, me, my boys. The next day, I checked into a horrible motel with help of my friends to pay for it. And we hid for 30 days.
Wow.
That was a major stone I was standing on.
Yes.
Because it could have been easier for me to call him and go back and tuck my kids back into their beautiful comforters and their warm beds and their toys versus what I was about to face.
Yeah.
And that is a huge part of why I count my blessings every single morning. The divorce took a really long time, almost 2 years. He fought a lot with being controlling. And the day I drove home from the courthouse, my girlfriend said, "Yay, you are divorced. Let's have a party." And I said, "No, today I'm Donna Keller again." I didn't want balloons, streamers, wine. No, I couldn't believe I was allowed to put my shoulders back and my chin up, and I was going to look people in the eye again. The day I met my divorce attorney, I sobbed in front of her desk and I said, "Someday I want you to meet me." And 2 years later, I went back and I just appeared. We had become friends. And I said, "I'd like to reintroduce myself to you. This was the real person." And it's been a great friendship with her. I found so many lessons in this moment. And to this day, I own 3 or 4 copies of the Joy Luck Club. And I offer them to people all the time. I keep it, but watch this movie. And I wish these actors or the writer knew that this moment, if I did not leave the day I did, somebody would have had to pick up something for me to be buried in. It was that bad. That movie, that one line, do you have any self-worth?
Mm-hmm.
And I remind myself that constantly. My boys see a mama with so much self-worth.
That's a hard to believe, but beautiful story. And it takes a lot of strength. And so you said you had friends that you went to. Did you have anyone to guide you through that whole process? You imagine you have to have somebody who went through it to help you know what to do.
I really didn't. Some of my girlfriends knew things were bad, but they didn't know how bad.
Yeah.
I think being the ever optimist, because I said I do to a man who had shown kindness and was sweet and loving at times, when little incidents kept happening over and over again, and I'd stand there in disbelief, like, did you just say that to me? Did you just shove me? Did you just talk to my kids like that? Did you just shove my kids? I was always so hopeful that the person I met was going to return, because that I didn't imagine that. He was nice. He was kind. But this was building and building as he was tearing me down. So I never really told my girlfriends how bad it was. I hadn't left the house in almost a year. And three of us went out a couple nights before Christmas. I had 2 little gift bags. I baked some goodies for my girlfriends. One had always liked a pair of my earrings. I wrapped them up, just little things. And I left and we were going to go to dinner. I hadn't seen them in a really long time. And after dinner, we stopped and got a drink. And I dropped each one home. And they said, we're really scared for you to go home. And I said, I'll pay for this. Well, when I got home, I pulled in the driveway and the automatic lights didn't come on the garage. That was strange. The entire pathway from the driveway to the front door were solar lights. There were no lights on. The outside of the light on the front door wasn't on. I had a little wreath with a bell that was on my doorknob on the outside. That wasn't there. What's going on? I went to put my key in the door. It was super glued. There was no hole for me to put a key. There's no lights anywhere. The solar lights had been ripped out of the ground, had disconnected the automatic sensor light on the garage. The house was pitch black, and there was no hole for me to put a key because I'd gone to dinner with 2 girlfriends. Went around to the side of the gate to go into the back. There was a padlock because I went to dinner. When I finally got in, it was a nightmare. This was my reality. So my girlfriend supported me, but nobody really, really knew behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And this was my first exposure to any violence in my whole life. I had a Norman Rockwell childhood. I wiped dirt off of strawberries before I ate them. I made pies. My mother made my Barbie clothes. My parents held hands. It was so foreign to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And where did someone pull that strength from? Do you think it was your optimism? Do you think it was your family?
Those boys' faces.
Okay.
I wanted to be a mama my whole life.
Yeah.
Joy of these boys. There were days I wanted to get up, crawl in the corner, be in the fetal position, and just let it all disappear.
Yeah.
And no, we were in a motel that the cigarette burns and the nylon bedspreads would scrape and scratch our arms. We had to go to the counter for toilet paper and towels. I would sneak. I had girlfriends that would pick up my 2 boys and bring them to school so the baby and I could stay hidden. And I would sneak out, go get a combo meal, one. And when the boys came home, I'd divide it into thirds until the mom already ate. Like, that is my strength. My strength was these kids. I had a Norman Rockwell childhood. How are my kids in a motel with no toys? the only clothes they had were what I washed out of their laundry baskets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to you're walking down the street now as Donna right now, and you're seeing yourself come toward you. You're on a sidewalk. You watch her with her head down and she's not making eye contact. What advice would you give to her, knowing what you know now?
Red flags
Mm-hmm.
are red flags.
Right.
Don't turn your back on the red flags.
Yeah.
When something doesn't seem right, it's not right.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror, stare into your eyes. This is not okay.
Right.
Life is so short. It's so short.
Yes.
Live your best life. Run.
Yeah.
Tell people, be
Yeah.
brave. The nice is not coming back. You meet nice, you fall in love with nice. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Your head is down, no eye contact.
Yeah.
Tell somebody, reach out.
Yeah.
It was terrifying to leave with two $20 bills and a quarter tank of gas. That's it. There was, will we end up in a parking lot? Will we all be in this minivan in a parking lot tonight? Will I be covering them with dirty clothes to keep them warm tonight? Do I spend the $40 and break a chicken sandwich into 3 for them? Or do I keep it for gas? What do I do? So I wish, just like going to college, I wish somebody had tapped my shoulder and said, why are you not wearing an apron at this school for 4 years? I wish somebody had given me that insight to don't ignore the red flags.
Yes. That's a good one. Yeah. And you talk about intuition and how we just shake it off and ignore it sometimes. Yeah, that's good. And then what I heard you say also is you wish someone back then had tapped you on the shoulder. And that's what I'm hoping to do here as you're sharing your story, is really to tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, you can do this, or pay attention, or, look at the pebbles that you're stepping on and reflect. And that's all incredible stuff that we know, no matter how old you get, you haven't gotten it yet. Now's the time. Thank you for sharing all that. So what is next for you? You're here now. You made it this far. You're strong. And we could probably keep going on with the different lessons you've learned. But what's next?
I'm not sure. And I don't actually like to throw that out there because I never saw coming back to Connecticut, coming back into my childhood home, into my childhood bedroom. After I left that situation, I started my own catering business down in Florida. I had no idea how I was going to pay for daycare. And because I cooked and baked, all of my close girlfriends said, Donna, sell your food. It's a little broad of a statement. How do you sell food? Well, I burdened a friend working at a doctor's office. And I said, would you ask the doctor if he would buy lunch for his staff one day? I was desperate. And the answer is always no, unless you ask. And I knew this was a big thing to ask her to do this. She was my next door neighbor for a long time. She ate my food. That next day, a pharmaceutical rep came in and delivered to the entire staff what I call a beige lunch. Nuggets, fries, and biscuits for 20 people that are grown-ups and not 11 years old. They were very unhappy with the lunch. My girlfriend wrote my name and number on a piece of paper, handed it to the rep and said, call this person, you'll love the food. That afternoon, this pharmaceutical rep called me and said, do you have an opening tomorrow for a lunch for 22? Never asked me if I was a caterer. Oh, yes, I do have an opening. Do you take American Express? Knee-jerk reaction. Yes, I do. I had no idea how I was going to figure that one out. And I booked my first catering job. Well, the girls that were encouraging me to do this, I didn't have a cent. So I reached out and I said, I have a catering job. And they met me at Super Walmart. We pushed the cart, filled it with ingredients. They swiped their card at the register, hugged and kissed me. I put 3 little boys to bed with their heads smelling like shampoo. And I cooked until the sun came up the next morning. I didn't even have a plastic platter to put this food on. I used my own glass dishes, loaded up the boys, drove to the doctor's office, locked them in the car, ran all the food up to the break room. And she called and said, do you have an opening tomorrow? Oh, they loved it. So I drove the boys back, snuck into the break room, got all my platters just covered in crumbs. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody knew I snuck back in. I brought them home and I cooked through the night again. She gave me 3 events that week. It was the first time I had held money in almost 2 years. I made $700 that week. And the very first thing I bought were pillowcases for my boys.
Wow.
And I was in business. I had 18 inches of counter space and an apartment refrigerator you could put your elbow on in my new little tiny apartment. And I was in business illegally. Do what you gotta do.
You got to do what you got to do.
I did this for 14 months. I ended up renting a beautiful 4-bedroom pool home. I went to the bank. I got a loan. I found a catering shop less than a quarter mile from my home. It was an office, but it had a remnants of a kitchen. It had the big vent over it. And I got the loan. I was in business and it was working. I hired every stay-at-home mom in my neighborhood. Their husbands and kids would sleep through the night. They'd come over, put an apron on them. We'd cook until the sun came up. I was changing their lives. They were helping me build my dream. It was amazing what was happening. I started a second location. That was so well. I got to hire more people. I was hiring vets to do my deliveries. They loved it. It was such this beautiful community coming together. We were looking for a third location, and I had a big decision to make. My mom had started losing her memory at 50, early onset Alzheimer's. I'm the only daughter. I was 1,100 miles away, and I knew my family needed me. So I closed everything down, shut it down, put everything in storage, and I moved my family back to Connecticut into my childhood home, where my boys are now the 6th generation to grow up in this house and on this land. And the very next day, I became my mom's full-time caregiver. 4 years into that role, I was so uninspired, and I don't want to say miserable, but I couldn't take a shower home alone with her. I couldn't take a walk. I couldn't go to lunch. And I didn't want to get a job for the weekends because my boys played sports. I was very torn after working 15-hour days building my catering business. We went to the farmer's market almost 7 years ago this June on Father's Day, and there was a booth with a banner, and the banner said, "Wine Consultants Wanted." Well, my heart started racing. My palms were sweaty. My voice was cracking. I grabbed my new husband's arm and I said, "Oh, I've been in training for this for a really long time. I'm going to be a wine consultant." Girl, I knew nothing. I didn't know a thing about wine, but I knew I love a good cheese platter and I love bringing people together. And I went for it. And I almost didn't, because wine is a very intimidating topic. So when I talk about these stepping stones, I was 5 years old on a stepping stone on a stool, wearing an apron, baking a pie with my grandmother. From there, I started this catering business with no formal education or training. From there, became my mom's caregiver. And now I got to bring food and people and wine back into my life. This was a path. I could not have so much passion for this job had it not been a path of feeding people all along the way, I think.
Right. Yes. So it's living in the now.
Yeah. So I took care of my mom for 9 years, changed her and fed her and loved her, and just tragic 25 years of losing your memory. She's in memory care right now. I haven't been able to see her for 1 year and 1 week. I've not been able to touch her. I lost my dad at Thanksgiving. He waited those 25 years for my mom. He's a huge drive and inspiration that you live large every single day. My dad didn't cross a thing off his bucket list for 2 decades because of my mom losing her memory. My bucket list is ever, ever, ever changing. So now I have this business that I adore, bringing people together and clinking wine glasses and telling them about chocolate and smoked Gouda and brie. But now I find myself in a brand new chapter, Julia. I don't have any parents to take care of anymore. And that baby of 3 sons graduates in June. This mama never wanted an empty house, never wanted a quiet house. Motion, commotion, people to feed, a sink full of dishes, laughter. I am really in this weird spot, and I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
What do I do when I don't have people to take care of all of a sudden? So we're either buying a boat, or I'm going to volunteer at the shelter, and I'll have 1,000 cats.
If you are enjoying the F50 Woman podcast, don't forget to share your positive comments and ratings, and share us on all your favorite social media channels. F50 Woman is a movement created for women, spread by women. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show and your host, Julia Jack.
My husband's only voting for one of those choices.
Oh. Not all of it.
He doesn't want 1,000 cats. So I'm rediscovering myself. I tell you that story when you say, what's new for me?
Yeah.
The story of being my mother's caregiver and then turning into my dad's caregiver and raising 3 sons. It's all of a sudden I'm having a little identity crisis here. If I don't have someone to take care of, I really don't know what the next step is, but I'm being super open to the universe.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? Maybe I'll do a ton of volunteering and I can be someone else's caregiver who doesn't have a family member to take over.
Yes.
I'm not sure where my next path is, but I know there'll be wine.
Yeah, there'll be wine. So we're going to get to talk about exactly what your business is. I want everybody to know what that is. But I have one random question. Why do you think that evil spreads faster than love, or do you even think that's true?
No. I gotta say no.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I think what I have felt in the last year with COVID is I am the person who, if I think that dress is adorable on you at the grocery store, and I have never laid eyes on you before, I will walk away from my cart and approach you and say, you look fantastic in that dress. And your smile, my smile, I call those shoulder taps, right? It's go tell that lady, go tell her, she's so pretty. Whatever it is, I recognize my shoulder taps. If I ignored that tap and I kept walking, for the rest of the day, I'm going to think that I didn't tell you about that dress. I will think about it all day, that I missed an opportunity.
Yeah.
What has happened in the last year is we don't see people smile in the grocery store anymore. We're all in a mask.
Yeah.
We have lost not only our friends, family, neighbors connection, but we've lost the stranger connection.
Yeah.
Now, what happens on that day when I approach her and I tell her that dress, you just look beautiful in that dress? And nobody in a whole lot of time had ever given her an atta girl.
Yeah.
She's going to be smiling, pushing that cart all the way to her car, schlepping those groceries.
Yes.
She could get some bad news later that day or be irritated in traffic, but that smile felt good to her. I think love spreads way deeper, faster, stronger than evil does.
Yeah.
I lived with evil, and evil was isolated. Living with evil did not
Interesting.
make the four of us evil. I think it made
Interesting.
us love stronger.
Yeah.
Now, love is like potential. You cannot measure it with a ruler, with a bucket, with a scale.
Wow.
Potential and love. Love is that circles all the way back to my, I'm not going to go today and rest my head on a pillow tonight without telling someone, I'm sorry, thank you, and I love you.
Wow.
But I
That's
don't go to
powerful.
bed. I don't go to bed tonight wanting to cut someone down with evil.
Yeah. I love that you said evil is isolated. You lived with it and it's isolated, and love is like potential. That's powerful. It gives it more power. Tell me one book that you would recommend to other women.
Oh, I love this book so much. It is called License to Live by
Okay.
Priya Kumar. License to Live by Priya Kumar.
Okay.
This is a fable. It feels very real life, like she could have been doing an autobiography, but it states right on it that this is a story. It is a story about your past, worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and ignoring the present. And through this fable, you live someone's story where they get to see their past. You get to have their worry about their future and their realization about being in the present. This book, the second I finished it, I wanted to open it again. I have bought 11 copies. And again, when I get on this top, Julia, I'm sending you this book.
Yes.
I'm sending
want
it
to
you.
read it.
Present. I buy these books off Amazon, off eBay, where if I find them in a thrift store. I love giving people these books, but I'm not going to give them to you if this is something that you wouldn't appreciate.
Right.
You can read a self-help book on don't worry about your past, stop worrying about the future, be present. This is not a book that lectures.
Okay.
It is a story of a character that you go along on the ride, and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's peaceful because my future, where I'm sitting right now in my home that in Connecticut, I couldn't have imagined this as my future. So why waste all that energy worrying about the future when I didn't write this chapter and I've never been happier in my whole life?
It's one thing that you can't miss doing every day.
I love putting an apron on. I'm an apron.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah. Something with cooking. Yes.
It's telling my family I love them. I'm probably, every phone call, hey mom, I'm going over to Jack's house. Okay. Love you. I want that. I never, ever, ever want my boys to doubt for a second that they are loved. I tend to tell them quite frequently. Same with my husband. But I love to put an apron on. I don't care if I'm going to scramble an egg or make an entire wonderful meal. It brings me so much joy, the process of even deciding which apron I'm going to.
I was going to ask if you have multiple aprons.
I have.
And what's your favorite?
I love them all. A year and a half ago, we lost my mother-in-law to cancer, and she was one of the best gift givers ever. Nancy was amazing with her gifts. I feel like everyone was so thoughtful. And she was not a wine drinker, but she gave me great wine gifts. And my apron is red, and it says, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, but when the white's all gone, I'll switch to red. It's wine themed. And I wear it in July. I wear it all. I don't care that it's a Christmas apron. I think of her when I put it on, and that she probably smiled picking out this apron for me, knowing I was going to smile and giggle when I saw it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Another one is my mother was a beautiful, creative person, and she made an apron. She loved 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, had over 700 books collected of The Night Before Christmas. And she painted on an apron a sleigh with Santa, and the reindeer were in flight.
Okay.
And it's a little amateur, and the apron's very stiff from the paint, but I'll never get rid of it. My mom, with this apron, channeling her 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Christmas, yes.
Yes, their Christmas aprons are all my favorite. Thank you for asking me if I have a favorite apron. I didn't know I did.
So let's talk about your wine business a little bit. I'd like everybody to know about that. What's it called? And how do the listeners get in touch with you, either because they relate to your story and they love some advice, or because they want to just taste some of that amazing wine?
Well, thank you for that. I found a company called Traveling Vineyard. I am a wine consultant. Prior to COVID, I would go into people's homes and do a wine tasting for you and your friends. And I teach you the steps to trying wine, and also great food pairings for each wine. My guests have a light bulb that go off over their head when they sip that wine and try the right food with that wine for the first time. Americans don't know how to pair wine and food together. This is a rock star job. Everyone wants to be there. I want to be there. There's wine, chocolate, and cheese.
Yeah.
It's really a joy to do this job. Since COVID, I now do virtual wine tastings where everyone tries little sample cups and they get to stay home and be safe and not have to get a babysitter. And those have been a ton of fun, especially for friends that want to connect and haven't been able to have a couples night like they used to.
How do you do that? How do you get you get the samples there ahead of time?
Yes, I divide the wine into little Jello shot cups.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
No. What are those? Yeah.
Some stories from the 80s. I label the cups 1 through 5. It's 2 different whites, 2 different reds, and a sweet wine. And I do little store-bought items like barbecue chips and dark chocolate and garlic Parmesan pretzels. It's real easy store-bought items.
Okay.
Everyone gets a little wine sample bag. We all log on to Zoom, and for an hour, we laugh and try wine. And I teach people lots of wine 101, but they're in one-liners. Yeah. Very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do one with my girlfriends for sure. I didn't know that was a thing that you could do. This is awesome.
Yes, it is. I'm having a blast. I got very nervous last year, exactly a year ago, this weekend, because my business cards say in-home wine tastings, and all of a sudden there was no more in-home. What was going to happen to this business I loved and built? And no, we got creative, and it's been amazing. Last March, April, and May, wine sales nationwide were up 300%.
Oh, I believe it.
All these mamas and daddies are now e-learning with their kids. They're working from the dining room table. Like, people still wanted their wine.
Yeah.
I say I pour it 4 just because nothing rhymes with 3. And my husband's loved working from home for a whole year now, because we have beautiful charcuterie boards. Usually about 4 o'clock, I put together a nice meat and cheese and bread and olive oil and all that good stuff for us. And we nosh late afternoon.
Wow. Okay.
People can find me on Facebook. I am Donna Keller-Savage. I have a business page, Donna Keller-Savage, the wine chick with Traveling Vineyard.
Love it.
And I would love to chat wine.
Yes.
This job has been such a blessing to me. When I found it at the farmer's market, I call it my beacon of light. It enabled me to have something for myself, earn money, and still sit next to my mom on the couch with my laptop and work something for me and keep her safe and keep her home. If I had to go to an office, to a traditional job, she would have been in a nursing home so much earlier. But this little part-time wine gig, I did it for 5 years with her being home. And now this is my full-time job. I've built it into something that is such a joy every day to go to work.
And I'm just going to put a plug in for you. You are amazing at it. I know you've won several awards, several years in a row, trips. You're just rocking it. It's because of your energy, and you genuinely love it, and you love people, and it just combines, and everybody wants to drink wine.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I can't imagine being disappointed with the alarm going off on a Monday morning.
That's
I'm so happy.
A good place to be. Yes.
Yeah, finding this business was not a coincidence or by chance. I really feel that I had to be open to this opportunity staring at me in a field at the farmer's market. And I had to have enough faith in myself to say, I don't know one single thing about wine. What a fool for me to get involved with this. But no, I saw it the other way of, are you kidding? I can learn this. I can learn everything. Every single person has a first day at work. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know where to put your coat. You don't know where to park. You don't know where to put your lunch. You don't know. The second day you do know though, right?
Yes.
You only have one first day.
That's great, because that was going to be my next question. If someone is listening and they may be taking care of a parent, they may be a at-home mom, they may be a working person who's sick and tired of sitting in the office and driving over there all day. Can they learn how to do it too?
Absolutely. Yeah. That is one of my biggest joys. I love getting people excited about the food and wine pairings. A huge source of my joy is helping someone start this business as well.
Yeah.
We say we have 5 F's: friendship, fulfillment, financial reward, fun, flexibility. That crossed every single thing off taking care of my mother. I needed flexibility. I needed fulfillment. Yeah. I needed something. I wanted to earn some money and contribute to my family financially. 90% of the people that do my job have full-time jobs, and we call this the fun job. But when someone comes to me and says, we're sharing a car, we're 2 working people with kids, I want to earn enough for a car payment every month. That's it. The joy when I get that phone call, Donna, we have a new car. It's new to us. When I see the joy that somebody can do having a little side hustle, oh, it's fantastic. So yes, I will teach you what wines go with what cheese. Yes.
Do you have a favorite wine?
Oh, that is like asking if I have a favorite kid. Oh, say it out loud.
Okay, that's right. We'll leave it there.
Oh, I'm just joking. I love those kids. No, I started this business only drinking white wine, and now we try everything.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we had our first fire in the backyard last night, and I brought out a beautiful Sauvignon Blanc, and we had chips and guacamole by the fire. Wow. We came in and we heated up a little steak, made a street taco, and I opened a red blend.
Nice.
I went from white outside with my guacamole, because that's a great pairing. I sauteed up some mushrooms and had some strips of steak for a little street taco, and I opened a red.
I am all in. It's a level of sophistication and a language that you just, because usually I go in, I get a bottle of wine, and I'm like, I don't know, just get the red, because I don't know. Seems to go good with chocolate. I don't know.
You're also choosing the cute labels.
Yes.
Take my money. It's a beach scene.
Yes. Yes. It's no joke. Yes, I do. Yeah.
They are not silly creating those labels. They know who their market is.
Yeah. I want to be a knowledgeable buyer now. So I'm all in.
Yay. Yeah. Fantastic. I love to clink glasses with wine lovers.
Nice. Thank you so much. Not only did we learn about you, and we learned so many lessons that now we don't have to go through them. Now you taught us to be conscious and aware. I'm so thankful for you to be on the show. thankful that you're my friend, and I look forward to our wine tasting.
Thank you, Julia. I am so honored that you invited me to chat with you today and to share my story. I hope if one person out there looks in the mirror and finds some hidden strength, that there's a great life out there for her outside of what she's knowing as her presence.
Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Find your reason, and it will lead you to your resilience. And remember to live one day at a time, one life pebble at a time, always making sure to say, I love you. Are you an F50 woman who's not done yet? Subscribe, connect with me, and let's tell your story.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman Podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.